Hello, I'm Nidhi Kumar and welcome to the show, The Age of Drones. Today, in this fast paced world, a number of drones or unmanned aerial vehicles have hit the market. These flying vehicles are being used for various applications in corporate, agriculture, defense, and recreational activities. Drone technology has a lot to offer. However, this technology has a dark side too. If unregulated, the drones can be a serious threat to both the person's and the nation's security. Today in this show, we will talk at length about the components of drones, their various applications, regulations on drone use, and the potential of this revolutionary technology to aid in the development of our nation. But before that, let's have a look at this small presentation to know more about drones.
We are at a cusp of a revolution that is going to change several aspects of our lives. And all this will be made possible by drones. A miniaturized version of a plane that can fly in the sky and cover distances for us. Affordable enough to be possessed by each one of us, the drone technology offers enormous applications. Drones can be trusted to guard our homes when we are away and to take our photos and make videos from far off. The online shopping retailers like Amazon have already begun using the drones for delivering products to their customers. Farmers are using drones to monitor their crops, spray seeds, fertilizers, and pesticides. Disaster authorities are employing drones to survey the extent of damage in a disaster-hit area and deliver the essentials. The military is using the drones for surveillance of their enemy nation. These vehicles are also being used by conservation authorities to monitor and track the animal population. In the year 2020, when COVID-19 crisis struck the world, the drones played their part in managing the crisis too. Drones were utilized by the authorities and police in monitoring the areas to ensure the lockdown guidelines and social distancing norms are being followed in containment zones, such as Dharavi slums of Mumbai. The camera footage from the drones helped police to perform their duties without risking their health. Drones were also employed in Varanasi and Delhi to spray disinfectant to sanitize the public spaces, making them safe. Let's just say that drones can offer us many services, and it's up to the creative abilities of the user to make full use of this technology.
Indeed, drones have a great potential to transform our lives. Let's get to know more about this technology from our two eminent guests who have joined us today in our studios. Our first guest is Dr. Deepu Philip. Dr. Deepu heads the Smart Systems and Operations Laboratory of IIT Kanpur and is also the co-principal investigator of the Fixed Wing Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Lab of IIT Kanpur. Multiple agencies like DRDO, GAIL, CSTUP, VTOL, Aviation, etc. Our second guest is Shri Ravi Gupta. Shri Ravi Kumar Gupta is an independent writer and opinion maker on matters related to role of science and technology in national security, contributing on diverse topics that include defense, security, science and technology. He served at DRDO as a DRDS scientist for over 35 years and superannuated in May 2015 as Scientist G and Director, Public Interface at the DRDO headquarters. So welcome to the program. बहुत स्वागत है आपका. I'll begin with the first question to you, Dr. Deepu. There is a lot of buzz around aerial vehicles, and many terms are used in context of aerial vehicles, UAVs. Could you explain what UAVs are for the general interest of the masses?
The simplest way to think about it is there are a lot of terms that are used interchangeably in this process. People commonly use the word drones. And the technical people usually use unmanned aerial vehicles, and some people also call it as RPAS, UAS. There's many terms for this. For simplicity, the term drone means anything that is without a pilot.
Right, right.
It can be in water, it can be in land, it can be in air. So drone is anything without a pilot. Whereas in the case of unmanned aerial vehicle, that is predominantly related to the flying platforms. The difference with the unmanned aerial vehicle and the typical flying platforms is there is usually a pilot in the normal flying platform who controls the platform. Whereas in unmanned aerial vehicle, there is no human being sitting in that system.
Correct.
That is why it's called unmanned.
Correct. So could you explain, Mr. Ravi over here, ki UAS or UAV, how are they different?
See, as Professor Deepu has said, UAVs refer to the unmanned flying vehicles.
Right.
Now, when the vehicle is flying without a pilot, either somebody is operating from the ground or it is totally autonomous. So, when we refer to UAV, it is the vehicle itself, but when we say UAS, it is the complete system, including the ground stations, all kind of communication links. So they all put together, which is required to make the UAV do certain tasks, is considered as unmanned aerial systems.
Could you elaborate, Dr. Deepu, on how drones actually, defy gravity and fly in the air, and what are the main components that go into making a drone?
I will get to the unmanned aerial vehicle or UAS as the way to think about it. Anything that has to fly, how to somewhere get a lift. So in this case, either the propellers, which are used to give the lift so that the unmanned aerial vehicles will lift up from the ground, or use a runway to travel at some speed so that the wind that flows over the wing will give you sufficient energy to lift from the ground. So one way or other, there is a source from which you derive energy to sustain your flight. So most of the time, you can think about the UAVs broadly into three categories. One is the fixed wing UAVs, which is like similar to an aircraft, and has a wing on which the wind flows over the wing, and that wind or the air that flows over the wing gives you the lift. Other one is the typical quadcopters or multicopters, which are used in wedding photography mostly. That one you have 4 or 6 propellers that are rotating, which gives the lift from the ground. And that's called the rotary wing platforms. And then the third one you might have seen in the movies of late, that flapping bird-like system that actually flies around,
yes.
which is the flapping wing. So this is like a bird which is flapping its wing, which is like you are actually swimming in the water. You are actually moving the air backward, and that gives you the
Momentum.
forward motion. So this is the 3 major propulsion mechanisms that are used by UAVs to stay in flight.
Sir, here I'd like to ask you, aeroplanes have been flying for years. How is it that drones have become so popular suddenly, that...
Very good question. See, anything which comes new, to become popular, what do we need? It has to be cost effective, lower cost, should be able to do some performance activities which the existing technology is not able to do, should be easily available. Now, incidentally, drones have all these put together. You can have a drone which is flying, which you can get at a cost of much, much less than the cost of an aircraft. Secondly, their size. Now, many things which aircraft can't do, because manned aircraft means you have to have a space for a pilot, and the safety aspect also have to be accordingly. Now, the smallest flying aircraft today is Tejas, the combat aircraft.
Correct.
But if you talk of a drone, it can be as small as on your palm top. So what cannot be done by a manned aircraft can be done by these
So
small
it can
drones.
go and perhaps go on surveillance and do whatever.
Exactly. It can enter a building, it can
yes.
fly in a hall and do many things which aircraft won't be able to do. So that's why but one thing more, see, generally we are referring to these kind of drones, the picture which comes to the mind is there's something which is a small thing, quadrilateral or some kind of a small
Some
aircraft.
kind of a toy, basically.
Toy kind of a thing. No. First of all, the missiles, normally they are not classified in terms of UAVs. But these are also kind of a unmanned systems which are doing a sacrificial weapon.
Correct, correct.
It go and get destroyed. Technologies are similar. And the drones also evolved along with the aircraft. I mean, the earliest part of drones, they came up when the first aircraft started flying, the first decade of the 20th century. But they became popular later on because of the cost. When the remote controls and their computer became advanced, autonomy became more and more, they started gaining popularity.
Correct. And on this note, we'll be taking a short break. Stay tuned. When we come back, we will talk about applications and regulations related to drones in greater detail.
India Science is an internet-based science TV channel initiated by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, implemented and managed by Vigyan Prasar. India Science on the URL www.indiascience.in is a bilingual channel with content in Hindi and English. It can be accessed on any internet-enabled device. This video platform is dedicated to science and technology knowledge dissemination with a strong commitment to spreading scientific awareness, especially with Indian perspectives, ethos and cultural context. The India Science mobile app can be downloaded from the Google Play Store and Apple Store.
Welcome back to our show, The Age of Drones. Let's continue our discussion on drones. Dr. Deepu, it seems a lot of drones are available in the market. So, what is the classification of such available?
So I'll give you a quick three classifications that's available. Based on the propulsion system, we can classify it as fixed wing. I already mentioned fixed wing, rotary wing and flapping wings. Fixed wings are the one like aircraft, which uses the wind to fly. The rotary wings are like the quadcopters or the hexacopters, which is like a helicopter, takes off vertically and lands vertically. And a flapping wing is like a bird. But the European Association classifies unmanned aerial vehicles into what we call close range unmanned aerial vehicles, which can fly within a range of 20 kilometers, reasonably lightweight, does not fly above 1,000 feet from the ground. That they call as close range systems. Then there is another one which is between 20 kilometers to all the way to 100 kilometers, which they call as short range vehicles. And the short range UAVs are typically of the they fly about close to 3,000 feet from the ground, 3,000 to 5,000 feet from the ground. And then they called us the medium range that goes all the way up to 150 kilometers line of sight. Then there's a long range UAV, which is we require SATCOM up to 500 kilometers range. So this is based on the operational radius aspect that works on. The American systems goes the other way. It is kind of a combination of a weight class and as well as the endurance class. One of the things that Ravi sir has already mentioned is why UAVs became so popular. One of the main reasons for popularity is it is not limited by the endurance of a human being. If you put a pilot and you want to do a 24-hour mission, you have to feed the pilot has to use the restroom, and all those issues are there associated. So in the United States, when they originally came up with the drone or the UAVs, they had what you call as the micro UAVs, which are the short weights, which is less than 10 kgs. Then they called us LAIL, low altitude, long endurance, which is up to the weights of somewhere close to 50 kilograms and above 5,000 feet, up to 5,000 feet from the ground level, and operates up to 8 hours on an average. Then the third UAV is MALE, M-A-L-E, medium altitude, long endurance. That is up to an altitude of 10,000 feet, 18,000 feet. Weights all the way up to 1,000 kilograms. Last UAV is HALE, H-A-L-E, high altitude long endurance, that we usually see in movies like Predator and Reaper, which launches the missiles and those kind of stuff. That is about 18,000 feet, can fly all the way up to 24 hours and carry weights about 1,300 kilograms or 1.3 tons. So this is the weight and the endurance classification.
So, Dr. Deepu, on this note, I'd like to ask you another sub-question to this, which is that, please tell us, which are the new drones that are going to come out in India?
Well, people have been working on this. A lot of organizations, institutions have been working on this. The major push, I mean, DRDO to a large extent also have been working on it. Universities independently, IIT Kanpur has been working on this independently. The of late, what people are trying to look into is what we call as the composite drones, or ideally using composite materials for manufacturing because they're lightweight, and also the other advantage is that they're easy to manufacture and they have reasonably good long shelf life. Most of the aircrafts are made of metal or an alloy called duralumin, whereas people actually use fiber reinforced plastic (FRP) or carbon fiber Kevlar to manufacture these using the method of composite manufacturing. But of late, the craze in India is mostly on VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing systems, which is where a quadcopter and a fixed wing combine together. The disadvantage of the fixed wing systems has been it always required a runway to travel or take off. So with a VTOL system, you can use it for the even from the area where you don't even have the infrastructure like runway. So a lot of the people are now working towards VTOL systems, vertical takeoff and landing
So
systems.
what system you just mentioned, what is happening in your laboratory according to take this forward? Will you let us know about that?
Sure, I can give you some of the basics of it. Like one example is there is a lot of requirement in the national security to monitor critical installations of the country. Like for example, gas pipeline. If anything happens, any damage happens to a gas pipeline, like India has large amount, about 10,000 kilometers of gas pipeline in this country. And if any damage happens, it will be catastrophic. So you need to monitor your critical assets. Similarly, you need to monitor your border. But you cannot keep on making runways all across the place. So we have been trying to create a system which can be used as a low cost, reasonably good endurance monitoring system to detect leaks in gas pipelines, ensure the integrity of the border. Because at the end of the day, the more you patrol, more you proactively pursue security, then that much secure you will be. So earlier, if you had to have a pilot aircraft or a helicopter, because earlier gas pipelines were monitored using helicopter, which required a pilot and a lot of other things. Now you can remove the pilot and you can use the UAVs to continuously monitor this for longer time period. Cost per kilometer will come down, and more you monitor, more chances of you detecting gas leaks will come into picture. Same way, more you monitor the border, the lesser chances of the intrusions coming across the border is there. So this is one thing that we have been working on, and successfully we are hopeful that this will be deployed for agencies like GAIL and all, where they will be using it to monitor gas pipeline.
And on this note, we'll be taking a short break. Stay tuned. When we come back, we'll talk about the challenges of drone technology in depth.
India Science is an internet-based science TV channel initiated by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, implemented and managed by Vigyan Prasar. India Science on the URL www.indiascience.in is a bilingual channel with content in Hindi and English. It can be accessed on any internet-enabled device. This video platform is dedicated to science and technology knowledge dissemination with a strong commitment to spreading scientific awareness, especially with Indian perspectives, ethos and cultural context. The India Science mobile app can be downloaded from the Google Play Store and Apple Store.
Welcome back, and we are talking on drones, about drones and more about drones in our program, The Age of Drones. So we were talking about security threats when we last went for a break. Coming back to you, would you like to elaborate on what kind of security threats can happen with the surveillance taking place at all pivotal security assets in India?
See, India has a huge border. More than 15,000 kilometers of the land border and more than 7,500 kilometers of coastal border.
Maritime border.
Maritime border, you can say. See, with the advent of drones, this threat has gone multiplied many times. Because, as I said, they can be small drones, medium-sized drones, longer, bigger, giant drones. You can detect the radars normal radars are designed to detect the larger objects like aircrafts. Detecting a small bird like or a quadrilateral is a very difficult task. then how many radars will you deploy? So it's a great challenge, and the cost of providing security and making our country secure is going up like anything. The only way is that we have to use modern technology more and more and find innovative solutions how to counter them. One aspect is a policy, that who can fly. After all, why can't the drones are also very useful. There are plenty of civilian applications besides host of defense applications. In defense applications, you can use the drones for the offensive purpose and for the defensive purpose also. Coming to the civilian applications, they can revolutionize the way we are working. It can be boost for the economy. So we cannot simply ignore the drones. We have to allow them, but making a right policy that who will be flying, I must be able to identify every flying object must be identifiable. So like that, we have to find innovative solutions both through the policy and through technology to defend against them.
So absolutely. So India ambitions to be a 5 trillion economy. So I'd like to ask you here, Deepu, that what do you think drone technology can do to get this right? Can we do it?
I think it's like a good target, and you having an ambitious target. If you aim for the tree top, then you will at least reach the branches. That's the idea, right? So you have to aim high so that you can finally end up reaching there. So in one way to think about is unmanned aerial vehicles. The demand, last time we were doing a study of how much unmanned aerial vehicle annual demand of India is, and the numbers are varying from 20,000 to 50,000 UAVs as the demand in this country. So think about the amount of jobs that is going to create. Think about the amount of subsystems that it is going to. So a UAV will have 5 subsystems typically. One is the airframe, second is the propulsion, third is the communication system, fourth is the control, and last is the payload. So in the communication itself, there is people who talk about, Sir has already mentioned about secure communication. How do you ensure that your UAV is not hacked by somebody else?
Correct.
And another in about the autopilot is how do you ensure that in the case of a damage that, see, in any flying thing, takeoff is optional, landing is mandatory. It lands in the proper place, it doesn't land on somebody's house. It doesn't land on a school or that kind of things. So there is
or on somebody's car.
Exactly. So to ensure that the safety operations of it, computer science people can help in the development of autopilot of the system. The people who are working in manufacturing who can actually help on building the airframes, new materials, new composites, new manufacturing methods can be created out of it. Propulsion, there is, as of now, still we don't have good UAV engines that are manufactured for this country.
And talking of manufacturing, I'd like to ask you here, what do you feel, how much manufacturing is actually happening in India and where all is it happening?
See, if you talk of the potential, India has a huge potential. A lot of things are being manufactured.
And the best minds.
And the best minds. So all that we need for becoming a $5 trillion dollar economy, we have all the ingredients. The only thing lacking is that, yes, a strong will to do it, and somehow I can say since independence, we have somehow there is a policy has been such that it has been promoting imports. We have to change our mindset. And above all, we must have a mindset of yes, we can do it, and not that no, hum kya karenge, hum kuch nahi kar sakte. That mindset has to go. Drones, as you said, as far as the economy is concerned, they can play a very, very significant role in taking us to $5 trillion economy. As Professor Deepu has mentioned out, making manufacturing drone itself is a big industry. Various kind of components, systems, subsystems, and different payloads. But also imagine the kind of new opportunities drone technology is creating. New businesses will be emerging. Imagine somebody, I have a small eatery. Instead of selling it nearby, I am just supplying my food packets to people, the working women who don't have time to cook, delivering the food right into their homes or to their offices through drones.
I would like to add one important statement here. If you think about, let's take an example of tomato in this country. In India, whatever tomatoes that we produce, 60% of the tomatoes we produce in India are damaged. It is not available for public consumption. So one way to grow your economy is reduce waste. So think about the
We
amount.
wasted a lot of wheat also last year.
Our last year wheat wastage was more than the wheat production of Australia, 72 million metric tons. So a lot of applications that of UAVs coming into agriculture. So and
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes,
And 70% of the
pesticides, yes, absolutely.
70% of the population in this country
Pulses,
gets their
yes.
livelihood from agriculture. Also, other thing that Saras just mentioned in this regard is when you can improve the supply chain, the efficiency of the system, the total system as the country. As of now, why I just mentioned about tomatoes. The time taken for us to transport tomato from the field to the place where you're selling, that is where the damage happens
Yes,
the maximum.
correct.
So can you reduce the
And
time?
the poor farmer really suffers.
And he suffers.
But he needs the drone technology the most. I agree with you on that. And on that note, I'd like to thank both of you for joining us today for this very, very interesting conversation. It was indeed a very engaging discussion on drones. Over the coming years, drones will transform our cities, revolutionizing how people travel, how goods are delivered, and how buildings look and are constructed. If you have any further questions on this subject or would like to give us some feedback, please write to us on the mail address written on the screen. And on this note, many thanks for watching. Namaskar.